Welcome back. There are sparking up other conflicts in the world, China and Taiwan, and currently there was a bit of beef between Kosovo and Serbia over the autonomous republic, which is Serb, about making the inhabitants change number plates from Serbian to Kosovo nationality. That seems to be resolved by now, but Turkey and Iran were engaging in a military special operation to attack Kurds in Syria, in Iraq, and some other areas of the region. The strange thing is, these Kurds are allies of American forces currently in Syria, illegally invaded that country. No one asked them. Never was passed a UN resolution to do so. They just walked in and invaded, stealing the resources of this country, its oil and its wheat, and exporting it. And as I said, Turkish and Iranian forces were engaged in military attacks against these Kurdish allies of Americans. Kurds are allies of Americans in Syria. There are reports American military hardware was attacked. And a few months ago, the Russians and the legitimate Damascus government said, "Get the hell out of here. We do not want you." Like NATO and American troops had illegally invaded other countries in the world in the name of democracy to re-establish law and order. This is the excuse which they usually go in for. And every time they are there, they're still there to go away. They just don't leave destruction and death behind them, as well as stealing the resources of that country in that time which they invaded. Syria, no one talks about. The Americans have 28 military bases in Syria, and have been there for the last 8 years. So basically, the Turks are attacking the Kurds, which are allies of the Americans. Proxy war between NATO countries. It's really bizarre. This is the reality of that type of neocon American imperialism. Liberalism is called more like it now. They go around taking death and then destruction in these countries they invade. There are most African nations that manage to kick out the Europeans and Americans. Ethiopia signed a ceasefire by themselves with no outside help from the Europeans or UN. Because every time there is a war, Americans go to the UN and ask for a resolution. But not in the case of bombing Yugoslavia, Belgrade. That was an idea of Biden When was it? 1998. NATO planes took off from Aviano. I think it was a 60-day night raid. Many civilians lost their lives. Civilian infrastructure was destroyed. And there was no official war declaration made against Serbia. They say it's to stop the atrocities in Croatia because there was still dragging on the civil war in Yugoslavia. After Tito went, the whole Yugoslav empire throughout years began to start falling to pieces. And I believe the Americans bombed the Chinese embassy and they killed 3 people inside. Whether they were diplomats or not, I'm not sure. But if you visit Belgrade, there are those bombed, buildings still there, never knocked down, in memory of this. Then the EU wants them to join the EC and NATO after this and start commanding and bossing them around basically in their own country, how they should run the country. This is what Americans and the EC does. Outside the EC itself, they interfere in Africa, everywhere. You should do this, do this in the name of this. There's one thing I should say to Brussels: mind your own fucking business. The European Union's not that of it was created for. I think it was in 1953 or 56. It was the Treaty at Rome. It should be the European Union of people, not bureaucrats or bankers or corporations which are running the joint.